Hello, this is Mark Holmes, editorial director of Via Satellite, and we have another of our Thursday morning conversations, which I know are proving very popular. And this time we go all the way to France to talk to a face almost from Satellite's past, someone I know very well, the ex-CEO of Eutelsat, ex-Satellite Executive of the Year winner, Michel de Rosen. Michel, it's been a while since we spoke. How have you been? What have you been up to?
Mark, it's good to speak to you and through you to the Satellite family. I've been up to many things, some legal, some illegal, but maybe we can talk of the legal ones.
Sure. Sure. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Look, when I left Eutelsat a few years ago when Rodolphe Belmer became the CEO. And then a year later, Dominique Dina became the non-executive chairman of the board. The context of that, this was in fact just before the storm hit our industry. I still say our industry, even if I have left it. The context of that was that even if I did not have a crystal ball that allowed me to predict the future, I could see that things were becoming more difficult, and I was convinced that a new leader for Eutelsat, a younger leader with new ideas, coming from the world of video and with an extraordinary talent, like the talent of Rodolphe, would be more able to lead the company into the 21st century. And if you remember, we did a search, found Rodolphe, proposed the job to Rodolphe, and Rodolphe took it. And probably none of us knew, Rodolphe didn't, I didn't, and even you, Mark, maybe didn't know how tough the environment of the satellite industry would be in the years that the industry is in. So that's how and why I left. I wanted someone younger, more talented, more creative than me to lead Eutelsat. And that is happening now. I've been involved in recent years in mostly non-executive activities. I currently chair the board of 3 public companies. One is in the car industry. It's called Faurecia. I chair the board of Faurecia. We supply car companies. It's a pretty large company. We have like 115,000 people around the world in 300 units everywhere around the world. I think the only continent where we don't have a plant is Antarctica, but otherwise we are everywhere. And Faurecia is one of the leaders in that industry. And we can come back to that if you are interested. The second company where I chair the board is called DBV. DBV is a pharmaceutical / biotech company, which is specialized in using a very creative, in fact, a revolutionary patch, a patch that you put on your skin, and it's a way to get a medicine, a drug into your body at a pace that is the right one. It's not like a syrup, it's not like a pill. It goes into the body of the patient very slowly. And the first medical indications we're working on with that patch are food allergies. And in the world of food allergies, the first of the first is peanut allergy, which you may know, Mark, is a very serious disease in the US, more than anywhere else, because Americans love to eat peanuts. Therefore, there are many people, especially many young children, who suffer from food allergy. And we are currently in talks with the FDA on how to get that treatment approved. And the third company where I'm, again, the non-executive chair, is another pharmaceutical company. It's called Pharnext. And Pharnext, our segment, is to combine existing molecules. In other words, to use a few different molecules and combine them together to address a medical need where there is no good treatment available, or even no treatment available at all. The most advanced project we have, is against an orphan disease called Charcot-Marie-Tooth. CMT, it's a pretty dramatic disease, and for which makes the life of patients extremely unpleasant. And we believe that the treatment we have developed has the potential to change the life of patients. So these are the three boards that I chair. I also have joined the board of another pharmaceutical company, a Swiss company called Idorsia, extremely innovative in different fields. So I'm involved in that sense in 4 public companies, 3 French, 1 Swiss, 1 in the car industry, 3 in pharmaceuticals.
We've had obviously a busy year in the satellite industry. There's been big news involving the likes of OneWeb, Intelsat, Speedcast, for example. Do you still take a keen eye on what's going on in the industry? I mean, I know it was obviously a few years ago, but do you still, have you sort of looked upon recent events and any thoughts on them?
Well, Mark, it's impossible to work in the satellite industry for quite some time and to become indifferent. It remains a fascinating industry, frankly, one of the most fascinating there is. And I think there are reasons to that. It's not just emotional, but the fact that the satellite industry is, by definition, in space, so there is sort of no limit to what the satellite does. You have sometimes the impression that you can approach God, or at least approach it more than other people who are working in other industries. So there is something fascinating. The other part of the satellite industry that makes it special is that we serve billions of people. The companies, Eutelsat, SES, Intelsat, and others, are not very large companies like General Motors or General Electric or etc. But still, these mid-sized companies serve hundreds of millions, in fact, billions of people. And that gives a sense of pride, but also a sense of duty. And then thirdly, this is also an industry which is very high tech, where innovation moves fast, where you have some of the brightest minds in the world developing new solutions, new technologies, new services. And finally, what I also find fascinating in the satellite industry, if I compare it to others, is how international it is. It so happened that last week I was visiting Eutelsat. And when you visit Eutelsat, same if you visit SES or Intelsat, it's incredibly international, not just the customers, but also the people who work there. And that makes it, I believe, also more interesting and more exciting. So, in other words, in summary, if I was to say it in a catchphrase, I would say, in satellite once, in satellite always. You never forget, you never become indifferent to the industry.
I mean, I know you're doing some exciting stuff in pharmaceuticals and the automotive. Do you miss being part of the industry on a day-to-day basis? Where does it sort of stand in your sort of overall career, do you think, that time at Eutelsat?
Look, Mark, when you are the CEO of a company, you give it, you work 24 hours a day, you go to sleep thinking of your job, you dream of your job, and you wake up and here it is again. So it's round the clock. But once you have moved out, it's very important not to be in the way of your successes. So I have been keen not to be in the way of Rodolphe, an excellent CEO of Eutelsat, and Dominique Dina, an excellent chairman of the board of Eutelsat. So I follow. I sometimes have a dinner, a lunch, a breakfast, but I do that, how can I say, as a friend, and
Yeah.
I am keen not to be involved and not to offer a different opinion on what the management and the board of Eutelsat are doing, and I believe are doing very well.
Of course. I mean, if I could just go to, I mean, we mentioned a couple of the big stories. I mean, obviously, one of the big things we've all been talking about in the industry this year has been small satellites, LEO. We've seen the British government take a stake in OneWeb. LeoSats sort of disappeared. You've got things like Starlink on the horizon. Have you been? Is there any of this that has, as sort of a distant onlooker now, has any of this stuff that's happened really surprised you in any way? Is it something that even, or something you thought that some of these things might happen?
Well, I think I'll make two comments on that question. One is that when I joined the industry, the satellite industry, in 2008, so 12 years ago, all the indicators were green. Now, at that time, people remembered the difficult years of 2001, 2, and 3, when the cycle was bad. And because the cycle had been bad, the industry had reduced capacity investments. And so when I joined, there was a shortage. I remember the first year, the use of capacity at Eutelsat was approximately 97%, which was too high. And so us and others had problems serving all the customers that needed capacity. And so at that time, growth was strong, profitability was strong, cash was very good, everything was fine, and all the leaders of the industry were both happy and looked like heroes. So in recent years, things have changed and have become much more difficult. I would love to say that I predicted all of that. That would not be true. I could see that indeed things were more difficult, but I did not see that they would be as difficult as they have become. And frankly, I think it was difficult to predict. Some people will say, I knew it, I knew it. Well, nothing is easier to predict than the past, but to predict the future is difficult. So that's one comment. The second comment is that I simply believe that the world of satellites has become more complex. There used to be, again, it used to be a simple world where in the years I described, 2007, 8, and 9, the thing was capacity. We need more capacity. Okay. Well, now, when there is significantly more capacity, not only in the world of geo satellites, but also now there is MEO and there is LEO coming up. So things are simply more complex. And when the world is more complex, Mark, my belief with my gray hair is that there are two rules for success. One is you must be smarter than others in the way you serve your customers. And two, you need sound financials. And when I look at the industry, the satellite industry, it strikes me that Eutelsat has been, under Rodolphe's leadership, very keen on keeping its financials very sound. Because when your financials are sound, you have more options. When your financials are bad, then you know what? You can become a victim. You can't choose your future. And so that is, I believe, a privilege of Eutelsat. And I will not speak about the other players, but you know better than anybody, Mark, that some of the players are clearly weaker than Eutelsat or than they were a few years ago. Okay, OneWeb is a good example. OneWeb a few years ago was a star. Well, if the British government bought some stake into OneWeb, it's because OneWeb has not been able to face the financial needs that it has because of a very ambitious investment program. So you need good financials. Some have it, some don't have it. Clearly, Eutelsat is on the right side. And then the second thing you need is to be smart in the way you develop solutions for your customers. And there again, I don't want to appear to be involved in what is not my job anymore, but I believe that what Eutelsat is doing, not only Eutelsat, but of course I focus more on Eutelsat than on others. I believe that the mix of satellites that they are developing, the way they do business is, I believe, pretty smart. And I'm convinced, Mark, that in a few years, if you're still at Via Satellite, if I'm still alive, and if you interview me, let's say in 5 years,
Yeah.
I predict that Eutelsat will be one of the winners of the industry.
Wow. Well, we'll definitely try and hold you to that and have that conversation in 5 years. Now, with these Thursday morning conversations, we've been having a bit of fun with them as well. So we've been asking a lot of the CEOs what movies they've been watching during lockdown, how they've been. What they've been doing with family time, TV dramas, movie, all that kinds of fun stuff. Some very interesting things we've been finding out. So, could you tell us, anything that you've been watching, what you've been getting up to when you're not thinking about pharmaceuticals and automotive?
Certainly. Well, look, I'm a big fan of series. Okay, I'm addicted to series. And in a way, I'm an enemy of series because I love them so much that I stop sleeping if
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not careful. So, more practically, what did I watch recently? In fact, this weekend, I was watching for the second time at Borgen. If you know Borgen, it's a Danish series with a lady who becomes prime minister. I saw it a few years ago. I saw it again during the weekend.
It's a fantastic series.
It's a fantastic series. So, second, during the confinement, my wife and I were in a tiny village in the Pyrenees. This is a region between France and Spain.
Yeah.
There were more cows and sheep there than human beings. Okay. But Netflix gets there. And so we watched there two series. One is Ozark.
Yeah.
Ozark, which, as you may know, is a very cruel story that happens in Missouri. And I thought it was a pretty good show. I also watched Unorthodox, which
Okay.
is another great show that happens a bit in New York and a lot in Berlin. I
Okay.
recommend I recommend both to our friends of the satellite family.
No, that's fantastic. I'm a huge Borgen fan. I remember when that came out and everybody in the UK was watching those Danish dramas, The Killing, Borgen, and then there was The Bridge from Sweden, and I'm a big fan of that. So it's nice to hear Borgen being mentioned on these conversations. We've also been talking a little bit about music as well. We've been getting a sort of finding out about people's music taste, their favorite artists, whether concerts they've been to. Are you a big music fan? What kind of music do you listen to?
Well, two answers. First answer is I'm more a series fan than a music fan.
Yeah.
Second, my tastes in music are a bit old fashioned. So maybe that's my generation. I remain a big fan, don't smile, okay? I remain a big fan of the Beatles, of Pink Floyd, of ABBA, and groups like that. And I can listen to them for hours and hours and hours. I also love opera, and I prefer Italian opera to German opera. So these are my two favorite types of music.
And do you have like a concert or an opera that you've been to that you remember that you think, wow, that was just like one of the best experiences I've had, one that you look back on and you think, wow, that was,
Look, I very rarely go to concerts.
yeah,
The last concert I went to was in Paris with Joan Baez. You know her?
yeah.
You do?
It is a
I
folk songwriter, right?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
she's not just a writer, she also is a great
performer.
singer.
Yeah,
Okay. It so happens, and that is not public information, that for a few years, her boyfriend was a French friend of mine. Okay. That was never really made public, so I won't say his name. But because of that, when she came to Paris to give a few concerts, I was able to meet her, spend time with her, chat with her. And I can tell you, she's not only a great singer, a great musician, but a
yeah.
lovely person.
Oh wow. Well, we'll keep that secret safe among the satellite community. So
Exactly.
it,
Exactly.
it's all good. Just sort of, I guess, sort of finally, I mean, at the start of the conversation, we spoke about some of the, the very interesting things that you're doing now. How is sort of that sort of work-life balance now? I mean, you talked about, having a younger executive at Eutelsat with maybe more energy, more drive to take on the good work that you've done. I mean, how is sort of, how is your sort of, I guess, work-life balance now? And tell us a little bit about that.
So my problem, Mark, is that I love to work. I told you I'm addicted to series, but that's during the night. Otherwise, I'm also addicted to work, and I love to work. So I'm involved in the four boards of the four companies I just told you. And that is taking a lot of time because there is always something to learn. But I will add this, I'm also involved in two other projects. One is kind of philanthropic project about, believe it or not, Islam. When I was at Eutelsat, I would spend a lot of time with countries of the Middle East or North Africa. And I met many Arabic, Islamic leaders. And it struck me that as Islam is developing in the world, now enrolling nearly 2 billion people, it is misunderstood by many other people. Many people don't understand Islam or have a very negative opinion of it. And so I created a little organization that I've been funding, where the goal is to help Islam be better understood and to give the floor to uh, people who are Muslims and who are tolerant, modern, who are open to dialogue, as opposed to the Muslims that are very conservative and for some of them even very intolerant. Okay, it's called Islam in the 21st Century,
Okay.
and I believe it can help bring people together because I believe that at the end of the day, Mark, this is the most important thing. We do it in business, we do it outside of business. It's bringing people together instead of dividing people. I will not make no mention to American politics, but sometimes I get the impression that some people in the United States prefer to divide and some people prefer to bring together. With this project, I'm trying to bring together. I have
Okay.
two last personal things to say. A few days ago, I published a book. It's in French now. I hope there will be an English version. It is about equality. France is the only country in the world that has the word equality in its national sort of formula, you know. It's called, in French, they say, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Liberty, equality, fraternity. And so I was intrigued. Why is France the only country? And so I did a lot of homework and I wrote a book. It came out a few days ago. For those of you who read French or want to learn French, read that book. It's called Liberté, un fantasme français, which means liberty, a French fantasy. Lastly, we have 4 kids, Laurence and I, my wife and I, we have 4 kids. And a few days ago, our daughter, who has 2 passports, she's American and French, told us that she and her boyfriend want to get married. So we are extremely happy because the man she chose and the man who chose her is a great guy. So we are very excited by this news and event.
Well, congratulations. I'm just going to end on one very quick question. I always like to end with a light-hearted question. You mentioned some bands there, ABBA, the Beatles, and Pink Floyd. What's your favorite ABBA song?
I'm trying to find the word because it's the tune I always remember. I will not answer because you know what I do? I have this Google thing. So in the morning, I do some gym. And I always say, okay, Google, start the ABBA songs. And so I get the ABBA songs, but I remember the music, I remember the tune, I don't remember the words. I apologize for that.
That is perfectly okay. Well, Michel, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up. I know it's been a few years, but you've always been a good friend of the industry and via satellite. So it's been a real delight to catch up, find out that you're doing well, and also involved in some really great work as well. So I wish you all the best, and obviously look forward to talking to you again. We really appreciate your time, and we'll hopefully talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your time today. And the satellite industry remains the most exciting industry that there is. And I say hello to all our friends, to the satellite family. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.